especially when you're running a school or when you're leading an organization. The strength of the people around you is more important than the actual knowledge you have yourself. Just paraphrasing what you just shared. The stronger the team and the wisdom you have as a leader to manage those relationships and create a web that makes everybody trust each other and have a strong alignment in the vision, that will get you farther than if you know everything.
Drew Coleman, and I serve as Associate Chief of Schools for our elementary schools, for our ECE, elementary, and our K-8 schools. So what that means as Associate Chief is I really work directly with multiple teams within our district. So that's academics, working with our special education team, working with multiple teams across our district to ensure that we are creating systems that are eliminate barriers to get the work done, to make sure that we're doing what's best for our students. Part of that job is working directly with our executive directors who directly support our collaborative directors to ensure that we are ensuring that all principals are getting the support that they are needing. You know, we're not perfect, but we are working through to make sure that we are valuing the people who are doing the work and the ones that are in the trenches each and every day.
What you're sharing is something that DPS has been very intentional in sharing with all the community this year. The heavy emphasis on the people. We are an institution comprised of people. We all are here. We all show up for each other. And as leaders, especially you guys from an overarching perspective of all schools, when you present yourself in that way, that really humanizes every possible interactions we have as principals, as teachers. And you have no idea how beautiful it is and also how refreshing it is for us to feel, okay, you're here for me, you're here to support me. So thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
It's what we do. And you can't do this work if you don't value the people that you're working with, right? We all have a role and we all have a job to do, but we all matter. And the way we are interpreting and feeling matters each and every day. So that's the heart of, my leadership, and that's the heart of who I am. So, hey,
thanks, man.
We're a team.
When you think of the barriers that you are trying to focus on removing, which barriers come to mind first as the most crucial ones to remove this year?
We're working through understanding and learning more about mental health and learning about how mental health really has impacted not only our students, but our families and everybody who is working directly with students. So I think one of the barriers or one of the things that we're working through is, how do we navigate this new normal, right? How do we navigate making sure that students are having the best learning experience possible and making sure that there's rigor in what's happening every day, but also understanding the different emotions and the social well-being and the overall health of the students, right? And so understanding that, but still pushing forward, I think that's something that we're all still working through, right? Principals, teachers, and all of us, right? We're working through navigating this new normal, different behaviors that we're seeing, but also understanding that we still have to teach our students each and every day, and we still have to prepare them for the world that they are living in. And so I think one of the things that to add to that is like we're all learning together, right? And I wouldn't necessarily call that as a barrier, but I do call that an area of continued growth for everybody, right? Most of us have been in education for a while, and we're seeing some new things. And so with that, we have to, acknowledge, right? I think one of the biggest things is we have to acknowledge that, hey, this is something new. This is something different. So how do we learn together and create solutions together?
It is so challenging to navigate that tension between, okay, this is where we must go to serve our kids. This is the academic expectations. This is the the kind of assessments, the kind of structures that we need to continue to sustain to make sure that our kids are learning. And at the same time, the tension that pulls us back, which is surviving a pandemic, the whole mental health issue that it's evident right now, but still we are trying to grapple with how deep this issue is. I always talk to my teachers and other principal colleagues about, we typically pay attention to the mental health needs that we noticed in the kids that are the loudest, the kids that are the most disruptive, the kids who manifest their needs in a physical way. But we tend to overlook at that kid that's navigating trauma in an introvert way, sitting in the back of the room, that is not bothering anyone because they have so much to process within. And as a principal, I always feel compelled to think about those little ones. Like, I know the names of the most frequent flyers in my building, but how many kids I still don't know their names, and how many kids still need me in a way that probably is deeper than those who I already know their names. It's so deep, man. It's so challenging for me to feel that I'm taking care of everybody in my building.
You know, and I think, one of the things that we're learning is, like, we have the ability to really care for the needs of our students, right? We just have to continue to learn them. We have to continue to understand them. And when new things present themselves, we have to continue to look at it as, hey, I do have the tools to work through this situation. I've never worked through this situation, but I have the knowledge, I have the ability to work through it, and just going through the process, right? And sometimes that's hard. But I think when we're working with our students, there are new things that are presenting themselves. But I think what also keeps me going as well is that I know that we have the right people in the building who can help us really support our students and get them to where they need to be academically and also social, emotional as well. So that's the plus to it, right? Yeah.
And I love that approach because you're leveraging, again, the people. You're leveraging, again, the wisdom, I would say, that exists in every building and in every organization. So that's evident to me. That's one of your strongest values.
Thanks.
One thing that I know about you is that you are new to DPS.
Yes.
Yet you have an extensive experience in leadership, education. Would you mind sharing with us where it all started, your pathway to get to DPS?
Sure. So, one of the things that I like to say is that I've always wanted to be in education, right? I've always known that this was my path, even from high school. But you can probably hear my southern accent. I'm not from Denver. I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana, right? And so from the Deep South, and my leadership journey is very, very simple. I grew up in a household, mom, dad. Dad was a Southern Baptist minister, so I grew up as a preacher's kid, right? Structure, understanding, things are black and white, kind of growing up in my household, right, wrong. But at the heart of the foundation of who I am is really honoring and loving people, right? And understanding that the person matters. And so I grew up with that. I've lived with that my entire life, where how I make you feel matters, right? So words matter, interactions matter, and so that's like the root of who I am. When I came into education, I was an elementary teacher, so I've had the opportunity to teach third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. And I used to loop, like I used to loop with my students. So I taught them in third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and loved it. So I got the chance to experience being a classroom teacher for multiple years. Love the classroom, love working with my students, love working with families. One of the best things you can do as a teacher is connect with your family so that they understand that,
Amen.
What, he or she has, my child's best interest at heart. But through being a teacher, I got a chance to really work at, I worked at Title I schools as a classroom teacher. I've got a chance to be a teacher at an English as a second language school And so I work with a lot of students who their first language was not English, right? A lot of students, the first language was Spanish and multiple other languages. And that helped me, understand how to work with all students regardless, how to work with your the students who are your highest achievers and students who sometimes take a little bit more time to learn. So
in Louisiana?
In Louisiana, yeah. And so after being a classroom teacher, I became an instructional coach, where I got a chance to coach teachers at a pre-K through 8 school. So got a chance to expand my resume from just working in elementary to working with pre-K through 8 school, and working with secondary, working with middle school, coaching teachers on best practices, And so love coaching. I think no matter what job that I've done in education, at that moment in time, it's like the best job ever, right? I'm always someone who I enjoy the moment, right?
That's so true, yes.
I enjoy the moment, and so really enjoy being a coach. And from a coach, I got a chance to be an assistant principal. I was an assistant principal at multiple schools. So I was assistant principal at a traditional pre-K through 8, assistant principal at a traditional pre-K through 5 school. And then I got a chance to serve as a co-principal of an intermediate school, which was an awesome opportunity to serve as a co-principal. And from there, I got a chance to serve as a building leader, and I served as a principal at 2 different campuses. Loved being a principal. And then I got this wild itch to travel, right? So left Louisiana and traveled all the way to southern New Mexico and went to work for a district in Alamogordo, New Mexico. And I served as the director of curriculum and instruction and professional development, as well as the principal supervisor. So I got a chance to do a dual role in that role. So as a director of CNI, I got a chance to write curriculum, got a chance to vet curriculum, got a chance to really do professional learning around standards and around making sure that we're teaching to the standard, understanding the standard, and making sure that students are not only having access to understanding what the standard are, but making sure that experience in the classroom helps students understand what the expectation is, but as well as how they can demonstrate learning of that. And so that was an awesome job. And then back in 2021, I got an awesome chance to come to Denver Public Schools and serve as a regional assistant instructional superintendent in the Southeast. Did that, and then currently serving in this new role as the associate chief of schools for elementary. I think my leadership journey has afforded me the opportunity to serve in multiple roles throughout public schools, the opportunity to work in multiple states in Louisiana, New Mexico, here in Colorado, and also the opportunity to not only serve in multiple capacities, but the opportunity to interact with multiple people that has helped me become a better leader. Got to have the chance to work in suburban districts, urban districts, and in rural districts. And what I have found is that at the heart of the work is people, right? And no matter where you're serving and no matter what district that you're working in order to get the job done, it takes people. It takes great systems. It takes clarity of what the goal is. Not only clarity of what the goal is, but clarity on how to get there, right? And so that's my leadership journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
What kind of kid were you?
So I always tell this story. I was an avid reader, and I've always loved to read. When I was a little boy, my main goal was to get a library card, right? So back then, in Bossier City, Louisiana, in order to get your library card, you had to learn how to write your name. So I was probably about 4 years old when I learned how to write my name. So I had to sign the back of the card, right? So I had to sign Andrew, Coleman on the back of the card. And so from that time, I've loved reading, right? And I love just picking up a book. I can read a book in one sitting, or I can read a book multiple times. So I was the kid in class that I did what was asked of me, right? I listened, and I did what was asked of me. Probably all the way to about 8th grade. And then high school, it changed, right? You know, so high school became different because I'm playing sports and, you know, wanting to just not always listen. But I think one thing that I always did is, and it's kind of the way I grew up, is I always respected the adults around me, right? I mean, I was sometimes a little knucklehead, but at the end of the day, I tried to listen because to me, school is fun, right? So I was never someone who didn't like school. I love school. I love being able to demonstrate knowledge and to understand and to like grow, right? And so I probably was a bit nerdy.
You were a nerdy kid.
Yeah.
So when did you start wearing that awesome haircut? Was that as a kid or as an adult?
So when I was probably about 22,
okay,
I decided, this is when like Michael Jordan was still like, he was like, big and, being, bald was kind of cool. And so I started wearing this haircut, right? Because it was cool. Now I don't have a choice.
Now it's cool or cool, whatever.
Yeah, I don't have a choice anymore, right? It's just there. So
when we think about leadership and we think about those attributes of a great leader in the context of education, what would you say those attributes are to be a great, outstanding leader?
That's a great question. And so one of the things that, and I'll use an I statement, one of the things that I have learned and what was taught to me by my father is that a great leader, one, is knowledgeable, right? You have to understand what you're being asked to do and what's expected of you. But one of the biggest attributes that I think of a leader, the leader has to be humble, right? A leader has to really understand that the work is not about you, right? The work is not about what you know or how to make yourself look better, but the work is about the people or the community that you are serving. And so the greatest leaders know that one, it's really not about you, right? And so if you get recognition or not, it doesn't really matter. So you're humble, you understand. I think not only does a great leader need to understand, but a great leader needs to know how to work with people and to be able to build a team. But when you build a team, in order to keep people on your team, you have to be able to share the vision that you have. And not only share the vision, but be able to show how you can support the vision, right? I like to surround myself by people who have a vision of their own, people who are inspired by the work. A great leader can inspire you, right? I think of my days when I was a coach, right? I think of some of your best coaching is when you can inspire your players to live up to the ability that you already know that they have, right? You put them on the team because you see in them the ability to really like be a great asset to the team. And so a great leader looks at their team and says, you know what, you have the ability to do this or do that. And I'm not intimidated by your strengths, right? And so some of the best leaders surround themselves with very smart people, but they're also not intimidated by what you bring to the table. I tell everybody, there's no way that I know everything. There's no way. There's a lot more people that are 10 times smarter than me, right? But a great leader understands that I don't have to know everything, right? As a principal, I didn't have to know everything, but I have to know how to bring a team together, and we have to know how to work together. And as a leader, it is your responsibility, it is my responsibility to foster that type of relationship where people feel that they can thrive in their lane, but thrive knowing that we are a team working together. So,
Amen. That resonates deeply with me.
Yeah.
It also makes me think of a quote that I learned the other day about authentic leadership.
Yeah.
It says, be you, but it ain't about you.
It's not.
And it just left me thinking, I should be my most authentic self. I should be exactly who I am, express my identity. But at the end of the day, it is not about me.
Yeah.
So we should never make leadership a stage for our ego performance. That's what I usually tell people.
Yeah, I think one of the things is if you do a good job, right? If you do what you have been tasked to do, it all works out, right? For me, opportunities have presented themselves because whatever role that I'm in, I do my best, right? And I think that in education, we have to be reminded that if we do our very best each and every day, it doesn't mean that I win every day, right? It doesn't mean that, every day is like the best day, but I give like 100% each and every day. And I believe that if you do that each and every day, that it all washes out in the end, right? And so that's what it's all about, like giving 100%, giving 100% every day, and also being, like you say, your authentic self. When I got my first job as a school principal, and I tell this story, I was sitting in the interview with the superintendent and with like members of like the leadership, and I remember I was asked a question, and I had no idea what the answer was. Right. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I just bombed this interview because I don't know the answer. But I remember when I was sitting there that my father always says, tell the truth, and that's all you can do. And so I remember looking at the superintendent in his eye and said, I don't know the answer to that question, but if you give me the job, I promise you I'll find the answer out, and I will make sure that I do what's right for our students.
And that was a perfect answer to that question.
Hey, but I walked away thinking, man, I should have known every answer, right? And so I think and that was a growth opportunity for me, is that as a leader, you don't have to know everything, but you have to be honest in what you do know. I ended up getting the job, and I was told, hey, you got the job because guess what? You were completely honest, and we saw in you the ability to learn and grow, right? And so that's kind of what I think is important, right?
I agree, especially when you're running a school or when you're leading an organization. Yeah. The strength of the people around you is more important than the actual knowledge you have yourself.
Yeah.
Just paraphrasing what you just shared.
Exactly.
The stronger the team and the wisdom you have as a leader to manage those relationships and create a web that makes everybody trust each other and have a strong alignment in the vision, that will get you farther than if you know everything.
Yeah. Will.
Especially now in DPS rolling out new curriculum, new strategies for assessment, and all those new things as a principal when you're also running 10,000 other things. Yeah. It's nearly impossible for you to know everything.
It is.
So thanks, man. That's a lot of wisdom. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
You have been in Louisiana, New Mexico, Denver. You have navigated the context of the South, and which is super cool because now you can speak on the dynamics of small district, large district, and some places in between. Yeah. It makes me wonder about your appreciation, your understanding, your experience with the concept of equity, and how have you been able to see that term evolve in the different areas you have served, and what is your current understanding of it now?
Yeah, so I think one thing that we're so fortunate here in Denver Public Schools. We are fortunate that we get a chance to discuss equity. We still are on a journey. It's not a destination. It's learning, right? But we are fortunate that we have the opportunity to really discuss equity for all of our students and really have a focus on our students of color and making sure that our most marginalized groups of students are having access to rigorous coursework and that they're having access to great Tier 1 instruction. So equity, as I've experienced it and lived it and learned, is equity is ensuring, this is my definition of equity, right, is ensuring that we are giving all students what they need, right? And when I say what they need, it's not equality, right? So with equality, everybody gets the same thing. No matter if you need it or don't, that's equal, right? If I have $1 and I'm going to split it equally, 50 cents me, 50 cents you, right? That's equal. But if you don't need it, then you don't need the whole 50 cents, right? And so equity for me is making sure and ensuring that we are getting students what they need as it relates to their educational career. And when I say that, and when I say education career, it's academics, it's social, emotional well-being. It's making sure that they are feeling safe and that their voice is being heard, and making sure that the most marginalized groups are the students that are what I call in the margins are being taken care of. Mm-hmm. And that's what equity is. I think here in DPS, we're fortunate to not only have the opportunity to have conversations around equity, because there are some places where conversations like that can't be had. I've lived and worked in places where conversations like that they just don't happen, right? And so being here in Denver has been a welcome relief to be able to talk about not only equity, but talk about the why, and talk about what are we doing to get there, right? We're not there. No place is there, but we're working toward it. And I think ensuring that we all have an eye on it, right? And that it's at the top of mind. That, for me, is a good thing.
Yeah, especially with DPS being so diverse, so big as well. The reality they need is just right here, right in your face. Mm-hmm. So we either talk about it or we talk about it. Yeah. There's no other option. There's no, if you look to the side, you're going to find the same. Mm-hmm. So I love the opportunity and the commitment that we can develop working in a district like this, because there's no other place to go. Yeah. We either face it or don't. And we see it in our kids. And it takes me to our early conversation around trauma and difficulties that our families faced throughout the pandemic, and how to address equity from a mental health position as well. Mm-hmm. I wonder if you're able to make any connections between what we are leading for in equity and the idea of Black excellence, and see if, from your perspective, we need equity in order to talk about Black excellence, or if those are concepts or approaches to the work that not necessarily have to be with each other. Mm-hmm. How do you grapple with that idea?
I think as long as we see equity and Black excellence as separate things, we'll continue to work on them like they're separate things, right? Mm-hmm. But the work is all intertwined, right? You can't, when I think of Black excellence, I think of all of the excellent things and all of the positive things that our Black students are doing. Mm-hmm. And I think of our Black excellence as a way to lift up what is already happening within our schools, right? And as a way to recognize a very marginalized group, right? As a chance to really dive into, how are these students performing in my school, right? How is my instruction allowing them to grow and allowing them to meet and achieve at high levels, right? And so when I think of equity, you can't have equity without looking at all of your students, and without focusing on these groups of students who are not achieving the way your other groups of students are achieving. And so the work that we do is all rooted and grounded in equity, but we have to look at the groups of students that are not performing the way that we want them to perform and say, hey, what can I do to ensure that these students are performing at the levels that I know that they can, right? So when I think of equity, it really looks to me like you may not need this, but Andrew does need this, right? And so although you may not need it, I may need it. And if the goal is for us all to get to the finish line, then you want to make sure, or you want to ensure that I have that opportunity. For me, that's equity, because the goal is for all of our students to learn and achieve at high levels. Some students need extra support. Some students don't need extra support, right? But the goal is for everyone to get to that finish line. And for me, that's equity. It's ensuring that I have everything that I need to make it to where I need to make it to, right? And whatever that finish line may be.
Yeah. I recorded an episode with Dr. Tony Smith, and as I hear you talk, it reminds me a little bit of the definitions he was given of equity. Same with Michelle Wright. Do you know Michelle Wright?
Yeah, I love Michelle Wright. Yeah.
I love that lady.
Awesome.
Shout out to you, Michelle.
Shout out,
We
Michelle.
were talking about Black excellence and equity, and the way I triangulate what you're sharing with Dr. Smith and Michelle is the underlying assumption that approaching equity and Black excellence come from an asset based. Like there's nothing lacking.
Yeah.
It's just let's unpack the talents and the gifts that all of our kids have, and how can we leverage what they are and the beauty and the amazing gift that they have within.
Yeah.
Let's help them unpack them and give them what they need so they can reach their potential.
Exactly.
Some might need more nurturing, some might need less nurturing, some might need more scaffolded support, some might need more independence. But the underlying message that I hear from you, and as well as Dr. Smith and Michelle, is there is nothing wrong that needs to be fixed. There is everything that needs to be celebrated. We just need to make sure that we pay attention to each kid individually so we give them what they need.
Yeah, I think for me, Black excellence is, like you said, it's just continuing to celebrate what is already there, but shining a spotlight on a group of students that need a little extra push, right? Or shining a light on a community that what, I need to do a little bit more for this part of my community, because it's still our community, right? They're still all our students. And so what do I need to do to ensure and make sure that all of my students, all of my community, all of my parents know that, one, their voice matters, because it does, and that number two, I want you to be a part of this, right? And so for me, that's equity. It's not giving everybody the same thing, but it's giving everybody what they need to get to where they need to be. I think there's excellence in so many pockets of our schools, right? Not only for our Black students, but for all of our students. There's excellence everywhere, and we have to continue to do a better job of shining spotlight on those things and recognizing those communities and those people so that they know that they matter and that they are valued, right? That's like leadership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If there were one thing that you would like to see changed within your lifetime about education, what would that one thing be? What
I would like to see change is for us to stop making it complicated, right? Let's stop making it complicated. Let's get to the solution for certain things, and let's honor the people that are in the room. Let's use all of our expertise, and let's use all of the strengths that we have, because we were all hired for those different reasons, right? And come to a decision. And so I would like for education to stop being so complicated, right? It's not complicated. It's complex. And so I would like to see that change over time. I would like to see us continue to honor our leaders, honor our students, and really continue to work together. Like I'm a team player at the end of the day. I don't want to do this work alone. Hopefully you don't want to do this work alone, right? And so let's continue to bring our people along with us. And when we bring our people along with us, we have to be able to listen to their input. And so let's just get it done.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What do you think classroom instruction is going to look like 30 years from now?
Classroom instruction? Oh, man. Oh, I have no idea, right? So I'm hoping that we are continuing to go in the direction where teachers are truly learning to really facilitate learning and really allowing students to really take that true ownership of the learning in the classroom. That looks like students being able to talk back and forth to one another about academics and using academic language, and for teachers to be able to support and can guide them, and for students to have, the opportunity and the know-how to solve problems and come up with solution with multiple ways, right? And so there's no single answer, right? But there's multiple ways to how to get to the destination. In an ideal world, that's what we will see in 30 years because we're prepping ourselves for that, right?
Yeah. Have you heard of Chat GPT?
No.
You haven't heard of Chat GPT?
No. Tell me a little bit about it.
Chat GPT is a new artificial intelligence assistant.
Okay.
That will do absolutely everything for you. It's as if Google became a person.
Oh.
And it's just the greatest hype that exists right now. Hopefully you can, I'm sure you will Google it later.
I'm going to go Google it later.
Chat GPT it's called OpenAI. It's a website, and then you activate Chat GPT, super easy. And then you can ask Chat GPT to do absolutely anything you want conceptually, and that chatbot will do it for you. For example, you can ask ChatGPT to write you a code to develop a new video game similar to Mario Bros. And he will do it for you. You just copy and paste it, and you develop a new game. You can ask ChatGPT to develop a lesson plan around frogs using third grade science standards with scaffolds, with differentiated questioning, and with images and videos. And ChatGPT will do it for you in seconds.
So basically what I hear you saying is in 30 years, they're going to be running our classrooms.
I think in about 10. It's scary.
Yeah.
The amount of things that ChatGPT, and the new version is already out. I don't know that it's commercial or public yet, but it makes me think that 30 years from now, it will almost be irresponsible to have teachers teach academic content to kids. I see the role of a teacher 30 years from now more like the role of a priest or a shaman in a school. The one that facilitates the human connections and the human interactions, the one that help kids navigate the development of character or the development of personality, of teamwork or collaborative spirit among human beings. But all the academic and conceptual development, I think it's going to be taken over by technology, specifically the chat bots like ChatGPT.
I think, may happen, but I don't think that a robot can ever make up for the human connection, right? I think that it's like a valuable thing that we have in our schools is that human connection between two people, between a teacher and a student, that some of our students crave, some of our students need. So, it may happen. I don't know. 10 years from now, hey, we'll have to wait and see.
I hope that you and I are connected 10 years from now and be like, Drew, remember that podcast we recorded? Because I agree with you. I think the human spirit, the human connection, having a dialogue like this or getting to know someone, or as a little kiddo coming to school excited to see Miss Smith or Mr. Bravo, I think is very special. And I don't think that will be I don't think that can be replaced that easy. But the ability to teach concepts or mathematical equations, or the ability to allow a kid to understand or decode a text, I think that skill set will likely be taken over. But I don't know. You
got to wait and see.
I don't know. I am as excited as I am scared because it is worrisome. When you see the things that ChatGPT can do, it is easy for you to feel like, geez, what is going to be next after this? You should check it out.
One of the things that we do have to do, and one of the things that, is we have to embrace technology, right? And learn more about it. But I don't know.
The last question I have for you, man, if you would like to expand a little bit into this is, what do you think the role of standardized assessment is going to play this year and in the future years with our kids, especially as we get to know our communities more and as we get to dive into equity? What do you think standardized assessment's role is going to be as we move down the road? And I ask because I have mixed emotions about it when I think of standardized and when I think of assessments, I do see those exercises or those bars that we put on society as a marker for performance and for, moving us forward. Everybody has to take a standardized assessment for you to become a principal or for you to drive a car, or the plumber that comes to your house to help you with the things that you need to. Everybody needs to go through any form of standardized assessment, but also understanding how unique and challenged our communities are. I'm a little troubled with it, and I don't know if you would like to share some of that.
I think I probably share that same sentiment, right? I share the sentiment of, I think that sometimes one single assessment is not the sole indicator of the level of knowledge that a student has, right? So I lean toward, there's a body of evidence that shows the knowledge of a student. I think we are in the time and space where like those conversations need to continue to be explored. Drew Coleman doesn't have the answer, right? That I don't have the answer for that. And I also, there's like mixed emotions, because I do believe that we have to be able to, or we should be able to, or want to show what our students have learned, right? And so what that looks like can look multiple ways, but I believe that, teachers are in the classroom each and every day. Leaders are in the building each and every day. And standardized assessments are one indicator of the work that we are doing. I think that it's a topic that will continue to be explored. It's a topic that, I think there's so many different viewpoints on it. But from my lens, it's just one of those things that I think that we have to continue to really look at the value of it, right? And what are we getting from that, and how are we utilizing that data to inform what we're doing in our classroom each and every day. So it's still up for kind of mixed emotions on it, right? Because some students do extremely well and some students struggle. And we have to make sure that we help students understand that, it's not the sole indicator of your ability, but it is one indicator. So kind of have mixed emotions about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so tricky. Yeah.
I think it's very tricky just because I always pose this question. It's what we've always known, and what other alternatives are there? What are those other alternatives? And I don't have the solution for that yet, right? I have $1 million if I did.
Probably more.
Yeah.
The thing is, for you to change standardized assessment as a way of measuring student growth, if you want to change that, there are many other things that you got to change.
Yeah.
Like moving kids from one grade level to the next just because of age.
Yeah.
Or because of many other few factors. But
I think, I think that when you bring up the topic of standardized assessment, there's like a ripple effect, right? There's a ripple effect of changing this changes this, which changes this, which changes this. And I think it's a conversation that as a nation, right, it's a conversation that we need to have. But, Drew Coleman doesn't have the solution. And I can see pros and cons from both sides. But at the end of the day, my main goal in education is, are we instilling the knowledge in kids to make them productive members of society post K-12 education, right? And what are we doing on a day-to-day basis that's going to make them be productive members of society? And so for me, my educational journey has afforded me many opportunities, and I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with you if I didn't have the education that I had. And along that path, I've learned so much, and it's made me a much better person. So, that's kind of my view on it.
It is definitely a topic that will imply many other sub conversations.
Yeah.
I do feel encouraged by this podcast and this conversation around your spirit of leadership, always focusing on the people, humanizing the job, understanding that before anything else, we have each other, and how schools can become, and districts and organizations can become a hub for human development, for human connection. And I think the degree to which we keep that as a focus for our work, I think everything else will come at its time. So definitely grateful for your insight on that and for making me a little bit wiser today.
Thank you so much for having me, and just for having this opportunity to sit and talk, right? And to sit and talk about education, where we are, where we're going. You know, I'll leave with this. I truly believe that Denver Public Schools is one of the best school districts to work for, the best school district, and because we have the ability to have tough conversations, right? And we're going to continue to be courageous in our conversations, but this is the place that we can do so much good for all of our students, because we have the ability to have those conversations. And so as long as we continue to work together as a team, as a unit, I really think the sky is the limit for what we can do at this time, this day, right now. So thanks for having me.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nestor.